My name is Kelsey. I'm from Innovation Studio, and we are so excited to have Jay Weeks here to do a workshop on Intro to Digital Marketing. Jay is a HubSpot certified marketing consultant, as well as the co-founder of the award-winning Organic Path Co. So we're super excited to have you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Hi, I'm Jay Weeks. I've been a marketing consultant for about a decade, in addition to running Organic Path Co, as Kelsey mentioned. So I have experience both from the consulting side, helping companies to direct their strategy, marketing strategy, as well as from the brand side. So I've actually had the opportunity to implement a lot of this stuff with my own business as well. So looking at that, I'm going to kick off my presentation here. As I mentioned, it is a broad topic, digital marketing. It's not, there's a lot of different things going on here. So again, if I'm not sort of speaking to your particular business, if you do have questions, feel free to unmute and ask them at any time. Happy to make this as interactive as possible. So again, I'm going to kind of be doing a broad overview, and then I'm going to jump into the website and really cover some of the different things that make your website effective as a marketing tool. I like to look at your website as the hub of your marketing efforts. So whether that's your homepage or landing pages on your own domain, looking at using your website to both generate sales if you're an e-commerce company, or generate leads if you're a service-based business, or if you're a nonprofit, donations. There's really that's your hub for all of your marketing. So I'm going to kind of cover some of that, and then again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. So I'm Jay Weeks. I don't need to go much further on this slide, but again, I've been a consultant for about 10 years, as well as running Organic Path Co. So what is digital marketing? Looking at digital marketing, really the main difference between digital and traditional marketing is digital is on your phone, it's on your computer. In a nutshell, as the American Marketing Association says, it refers to any marketing conducted through electronic devices. So that can mean social media, that can mean email, that can mean your website, and we're going to get into a little bit of what that means a little bit later. So the first thing you want to keep in mind when you're starting off your marketing is understanding who your customers are. So when you're looking at doing your marketing, you want to make sure that you're talking to the right person. And there's a few different ways of doing this, but you want to make sure, for example, if you're an e-commerce company, that you know roughly who your demographics are, the things that they're interested in, as well as where they're typically finding brands. And we find that a lot with e-commerce is it's word of mouth. And so, finding out really who your customer is allows you to look at different strategies to reach them, and not just people who know you, but expand that audience out. So really having a strong idea of who your customer is incredibly helpful with anything, but especially with digital marketing. If you're a B2B company, you want to make sure that you're talking to another business as opposed to talking to somebody like a consumer. So just looking at it that way. And then you also want to make sure that you're tailoring your value proposition to the customer who would be purchasing your product or service. So making sure that you know what matters to them, as well as kind of what the problem that you're solving is. And then you can tailor your value proposition to that. And there are a few great resources if you're curious about creating a value proposition. Bain has a great value pyramid, and they have both a B2C version. So if you're reaching consumers, you can use that to kind of maybe get an idea of some of the different things that might be important to consumers. And they also have a B2B version too. So that's a great way to kind of identify your customer and then create a value proposition that works for them. So again, creating a customer persona helps you kind of work your marketing. So who are your current customers? What traits do they have in common? What problem are you solving for them? And you can use surveys, or you can use, you can actually do one-on-one interviews with either, if you're just starting your business, potential customers or people who you think might be interested in your product or service. And then, if you're an existing business, actually talking to your customers is one of the best ways to really nail this down and have a good sense of who you're talking to. And this is going to help you create content that resonates with your audience. So going into a little bit the stages of awareness, I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with this, but really the idea is looking at, what stage of awareness somebody is in when it comes to, looking at your content at these different stages. So if someone's completely unaware, this is, cold traffic that might come from, a search. They don't know anything about your brand. And, they only have their own sort of built-in identity and opinions. Problem aware is people who know they have a problem. So, if you have a specific problem that you're trying to solve, maybe they know they have that problem, but they're not aware of a solution, or they're definitely not aware of your solution. Solution aware is people who know the solution to the problem and are looking for companies or products or services that identify with that. Product aware is people who know what you sell, but they're just trying to make that decision as to whether or not it's right for them. And then the most aware are people who really know you, they know your product, they think it's right for them. They just, they just want to be communicated to. So that's sort of the different stages of awareness, and making sure that you're tailoring content on your website, social media channels, wherever it is that you're doing your marketing, to these different stages of awareness allows you to communicate with larger and larger groups. So talking a little bit about setting marketing goals, I'm sure that a lot of you have probably heard of this acronym SMART, but it's a great way to really look at especially marketing goals. And so we want to make sure that whatever our marketing goals are, that they're specific, so that you're talking specifically about whatever it is, whether that's a number, measurable, so that, again, whether or not you reach that objective, achievable. So you want to make sure that you're setting goals that are maybe, maybe a little difficult to achieve, but it's still within the realm of possibility. Relevant, meaning it has to do with your business goals. So it's not just, you're not just setting a random goal that has nothing to do with your business. You're setting a goal that has to do with something that's important to you, and time-based is helpful because that helps to compress the work. So looking at it just as an example, when we're talking about marketing, a good goal would be, we want to add 1,000 new customers this quarter. So it's specific, measurable. You can definitely tell whether or not you added 1,000 customers. Time-based, so you can see that it's within the quarter, and it's also, depending on your business, that could be achievable. And if your goal is revenue-based, this is definitely a relevant goal. So just looking at, whether or not it kind of hits those things. But this is something where an AOV, just for everyone's reference, is average order value. So we can get a little bit into metrics later. And your metrics are going to be really determined by your specific business. A not so great goal would be, we want to increase our website traffic. Website traffic to me is a vanity metric. People definitely talk about website traffic a lot. And if you have Google Analytics installed on your website, you might be checking that regularly to see, what kind of website traffic you're getting. And this could be important, but if you're not making any sales, and you're not, or you're not generating leads, then it's not the best metrics to be looking at. So making sure that it's tied to, again, a business goal, something, whether it's revenue or profitability or even awareness. So looking at those different things and making sure that you have the right goals for your marketing. So there are a ton of marketing channels. And this is not even a comprehensive list. There are a ton of different channels that you could be using to reach potential customers. And the important thing to keep in mind is not all of them are going to be necessarily effective for your business. So a lot of what you have to do is test different channels to see kind of what works for your business. And um, one that almost everybody is probably going to have is a website. And so that's your own website on your own domain that you own the content. Your blog would also be on your website if you're constantly sort of coming out with news or articles or information that would be relevant to to your customers or your potential customers. Blogging is not as popular, but you could as it used to be, but it's still a very effective way to generate traffic and generate potential visitors to your website. So especially in a sort of niche industry where maybe there's not as much traffic or there's not as much competition, that's a great way to generate traffic that's relevant to the types of content that you'd be creating. Social media, there, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok. I mean, there's so many different social media channels, and making sure that you're finding the ones that are most effective for you. Text or SMS marketing. This is something that is becoming much more popular. If you go to an e-commerce site, typically people will now ask for both your email and your phone number to get a discount code. So if that's something where you do have an e-commerce site, you might look at text marketing. And again, making sure that you're not sending constant texts. But that's a great tool if you have sort of because the open rates are much higher than email. Email. So if you have MailChimp, Constant Contact, Klaviyo for an e-commerce site, we use CM Commerce, which is very similar, so that you can do things like set up not only newsletters but trigger-based activities. So if you had some, you can build in some automation into that, which is great. Chat-based. So we use Messenger on
Jay,
our.
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, so I struggle a lot with, kind of consumer facing social media and thinking about how to use them for B2B.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, LinkedIn is great for B2B. So if you're doing anything B2B, LinkedIn is definitely a place where you can still reach people, which is great. It really depends. If you're providing information, it really depends on what's your business.
We run virtual events for companies. So,
Okay.
using technology and also, hosting, facilitating.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at social media as awareness. So, LinkedIn might be lead gen. So you're at different stages, and if you kind of know the marketing funnel, or HubSpot calls it the flywheel, because they're really putting customers at the center of it. But you have those different stages of awareness within that kind of marketing funnel, and so you're definitely sort of top of the funnel, building awareness through social media. So it's very hit or miss, because unless you're running ads, you're not necessarily gonna reach the target audience. But a lot of these platforms, listen, everybody's on these platforms. So if you had a video and you wanted to run, an ad to test out a video, to just generate awareness and potentially signups, and if you had some kind of offer that was relevant, you could potentially get some signups that way. But, you know, looking at it, LinkedIn is, you know, probably strongest if you're looking at like lead gen, because you can actually target people by job description.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So chat-based, again, this is Facebook Messenger, website chat. There's chat bots. We use Messenger on our website, and there's a bunch of ManyChat is an example of a program where you can set up chat bots to kind of auto respond to customer inquiries. So customer service, that's great for that. And that's what we kind of use it for. Word of mouth. So this is referral programs, brand ambassador programs. This is basically, you know, when you see like Dropbox would say, get 2 gigabytes for every friend you refer. That was one of the most successful referral programs, you know, in digital. And that's a great example of one. So if you had a service where you could have people refer people to you, especially from a B2B standpoint, one of your number one channels is going to be referral traffic. And so finding, you know, those referrals and ways to generate those referrals is incredibly important. Paid ads, so pay-per-click. So this is like Google ads, YouTube ads. So pre-roll YouTube, the videos that come before, you know, a YouTube video, Facebook ads, and Facebook, you know, there's a lot of controversy with Facebook and Apple and the kind of tracking that they're doing. But again, it's all, you know, LinkedIn, it's all about targeting. So really looking at, you know, who you're trying to target, and making sure that you're bringing value. Again, it all kind of always comes back to value. So making sure that, you know, if you're running a paid ad, think about how you can bring value to the customer and outsize value. So I always think about it from like a 10-to-1 standpoint. If you can bring 10 times the value that it's going to cost somebody to do whatever it is that you're asking them to do, that's really going to make a difference in terms of running paid ads, because there's so much noise out there. People are constantly getting bombarded. And if you're not providing value, it's really, you know, your paid ads are not going to be terribly effective. SEO, again, this kind of comes back to your website, but just optimizing your titles, optimizing your meta information, just making sure that you don't have broken links or 404 pages, which are pages that are not found when you click through a link. So that's sort of just some sort of basic website cleanup and making sure that, and you know, you could hire a consultant to do that fairly easily. You know, I wouldn't necessarily pay for something like this on an ongoing basis, because SEO really, you know, a lot of it comes down to generating content for your website. And so, you know, your customers best, you know, your business best. So oftentimes, you know, the best person to do some of that stuff is you. PR and press outreach. This is a great way, again, to get referral traffic. So, you know, going down to the next one, referral traffic would be posts on other websites, directories, things like that. If you know, post it on Reddit or, you know, one of those question-based websites, Quora, something like that. And then sort of PR would be the same thing. So if you get your product or service in press, that also gives you, we get a lot of referral traffic from Men's Health, for example. We've recently gotten a lot of referral traffic from you know, we were listed as one of the best body washes for men. So we get a ton of referral traffic now from Men's Health. So that's, you know, that's really cool to have it both, you know, from a usability standpoint, you get actual visitors to your website from that. And then you also get to showcase that press as social proof on your website too. So does anybody have any questions about, I know this is a lot. If anybody has any other questions about these channels, I'm happy to.
We have a couple questions in the chat, actually.
Yeah.
One from Fiona is asking, is there a way to link posts on different platforms?
Link posts. as far as, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tools that you can use. There's a lot of social media management tools that you can use if you're talking about linking, Facebook owns Instagram. So there's ways to cross post if that's kind of what we're talking about. There's definitely a lot of different ways and tools. Like if you wanted to use Buffer or Hootsuite, you can kind of send out this, and I would just tailor your posts based on, obviously Instagram is more image based. Facebook might be sharing articles. YouTube is video based. So just making sure that whatever it is that you're cross posting, I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. And then Sue's asking, what companies do you like best for small business websites these days? And what do you think of Wix?
I'm going to get into that. So that's coming up. So we'll definitely talk about that.
And then one more from Martha asking, if you are launching a new business from scratch, where would you start with the marketing?
That's a great question, and one that I was going to answer as well. But I would definitely start with, if you're not going to do a full-on website, that's totally fine. A landing page. Make sure that you have your domain name so that you actually get your business name as your domain name or something similar. And when you're looking at naming your business, it's really important that you can get your domain name. So if you are a new business and you're trying to get, you want to make sure that your business name also can be owned on all these channels. So you can, go to GoDaddy or something like that and just search for domain names. But like, I have business ideas all the time, so I have like 50 domains on GoDaddy. I'm definitely, I know people who have far more than me. So basically anytime I come up with a business idea, I'm like, oh, can I own these? And then I go and make sure I can grab them on different platforms. So, making sure that you own your name. Like we have Organic Bath on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, like all the channels. And we don't necessarily even post on all of them, but you just want to make sure that no one else is going to grab it too. Especially that can be problematic, if you're running your business for a while and you have, somebody owns your Instagram handle, that, that can be kind of annoying. To say the least. So you want to make sure that you grab your name on all those channels. And that would be one of the first things I would do with a new business, is just make sure you can own your name on all those channels. And then set up a basic sort of landing page talking about your product or service. And that can literally just be a one-page, home page for your business. So cool. Any other questions?
We have one from someone, Sue's asking about your thoughts on Twitter, since it was not mentioned on here.
Oh yeah. From an ad perspective, Twitter ads are not terribly effective for a lot of people. Twitter's a great place when you're, sharing news, trying to be a part of a conversation. You just, it was an oversight. It's definitely a good platform, but there's, I would say from a targeting perspective, if you're looking at building an audience, you might want to look at one of these other channels. You could build a personal brand on Twitter. It's just easy to get lost in all of the noise again in a lot of these channels. So, all right. So defining your metrics. So, again, and this is really going to depend on whether you're a B2B company or a B2C company, but looking at the different metrics that you might have, and this is by no means a comprehensive list, but this is just some ideas. And if anybody has any specific questions, again, on kind of metrics that might be appropriate for them. But website, if you're an e-commerce business, you might look at average order value. You might look at cost of customer acquisition. You're probably going to look at cost of customer acquisition across the board, whether you're B2B or B2C. But just making sure you know how much it costs you to acquire a customer. Your conversion rate on your website, this is appropriate, again, across the board. So whether it's, a lead generation form, and you're trying to generate leads on your website, or whether it's an e-commerce business, looking at your conversion rate, benchmarking it against industry standard, which most e-commerce sites, I think the average is 2%. So it's pretty low. It really depends on the cost of your product, and it depends on what your offers are. So you might have, a free guide that gets a 10% conversion rate. And then you might have, your actual product could be, incredibly expensive B2B product, and you might get a 1% conversion rate, overall from all the website traffic that you get. So it really depends on your industry. But looking at that, it's something that you can actually measure, and you can make sure that you're able to tweak your marketing to kind of, look at those different things. Revenue, obviously, is an easy one, and it's one where the nice thing about digital marketing is you can much better tie your activities to your revenue. It's not always 100%, but looking at things like referral programs, you can do unique codes, and there's different ways that you can measure your marketing in a way that you can make sure that you're cost effective with your marketing spend. And then email and text, so things like sign up rates, revenue per subscriber, revenue per email. So just looking, or revenue per text, so you can see, that allows you to tweak your content. You might change your headlines, or you might change your subject lines in your emails based on these kind of metrics. And then customer satisfaction, so things like Net Promoter Score is a great one. That basically is a good proxy for word of mouth. So if you look at Net Promoter Score, it's basically, and you could Google Net Promoter Score, and there are a ton of surveys that you can do. I have survey platforms like SurveyMonkey has, a Net Promoter Score. It's basically how likely would you be to recommend this business to a friend or family member or colleague, depending on if it's B2B or B2C. But that's typically a good proxy for word of mouth. So you kind of want to be in the 8, 9, 10 category. It's typically on a 1 to 10 scale. Anything 8, 9, 10 is considered a promoter. I think it's 7 and 8 are neutral, and then anything 6 or below, or it might be, I can't recall right now. And then anything 6 or below would be considered a detractor. So that's not somebody who's likely to recommend your business. So Net Promoter Score is a great one to look at. And again, also, return rate, or if you have a subscription business, you might look at churn, which is the number of customers that you're losing every month, because that determines how many new customers you need to generate in order to keep your baseline. So things like that. Anybody have any questions on metrics? Great. Website platforms. So, and again, this is by no means a comprehensive list, but we recommend Shopify kind of across the board for an e-commerce company. I know there are people who use WooCommerce. I know people use Squarespace. I know people use Square. Shopify is the #1 e-commerce platform for small businesses. And so if you're looking at developing an e-commerce site, you're going to be able to scale your business pretty infinitely with Shopify. You can't necessarily say the same thing for all platforms. You might have to go to an enterprise version of another e-commerce platform, might not have the features that you're looking for. Shopify really, can take you from $10,000 a year up to, $10 million a year with no issues. So, if you're looking to grow an e-commerce brand, Shopify is kind of the way to go. It's the standard at this point for a reason, and they're a huge platform. And they also every app that you would ever want to integrate with Shopify, you can integrate with Shopify. So whether that's setting up your listings on Amazon, or setting up your listings on your Instagram shop, it connects with everything, and then it also connects with every payment processor. So and they have, I think their plans start at $29 a month. So it's a great platform. I mean, they even have, if you just wanted to embed the individual products on your website, I think it's $9 a month. So it's definitely a great platform for e-commerce. WordPress, I've been doing WordPress development for 10 years. It's definitely changed a lot in that time frame. But WordPress is great if you have a service business. There's a ton of templates that are really nice. The main thing with any of these is that if you're not looking to spend a ton of money, you want it to be as easy to use as possible. Shopify also has great templates. We have a template that we paid for that we then tweaked, and we've updated some of the design. But there's a lot that you can do with sort of stock templates. You don't need to spend $10,000, $50,000 on a website. For the most part, there's a platform out there that you can get started for a couple $100. Just looking at templates and sort of the basics. So WordPress is a great option if you're technical. If you're not technical, Squarespace and Wix are good options. I've never actually used Wix platform. I've used it a couple times. I've never used it for clients, but they have some really nice looking templates. They have a very robust platform. There's a lot of things there. So, it could be a great option, again, if you're sort of looking for that drag and drop and you want to template. All of these, Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, WordPress, they all have a ton of people working in and around them. So there's a lot of services. There's a lot of templates. There's a lot of integrations on all of these platforms. Any kind of questions here?
We have one from Darcy asking if you can have a membership component on Shopify.
I don't know if Shopify is necessarily the best for membership. I'm not positive. I know there are other platforms. There's a ton of plugins for WordPress. I do believe that Wix has a membership component to it. So if it's membership specific, like if that's your business as a membership site, I'm not sure I would necessarily go with Shopify. There are other options that are probably going to not necessarily cost you that monthly subscription that would be, better suited.
And do you recommend a funnel program too?
If there's a specific program that someone's asking about, I'm happy to let someone know if I've heard of it. There's a lot of different programs, so it's hard for me to recommend something without kind of knowing what it is. But
you said ClickFunnels.
Oh yeah, again, a lot of that stuff is highly technical, so it depends, if you're comfortable with it and it's something you want to use and it's something you want to try. I always recommend that anytime you're doing any of this stuff, that you test out different things, and really having that mindset of experimentation is really helpful in terms of, making sure that whatever you're doing is effective or not. So I know there's a lot of like quiz platforms too. That's something, could be a potential great way to generate leads if you had a quiz, so there's a lot of different things like that allow you to kind of create a funnel. But, the basics of a funnel are really generating awareness and then bringing people down that awareness to, being aware of your product. So there's a lot of different content that kind of goes into that.
Awesome, thanks. And then we have Sue's asking about CRM platforms and where should our customer data live and how can our website feed it?
That is a great question. There are a lot of different CRMs. We use HubSpot for a lot of customer data, not customers on Shopify, but there's a ton of different CRMs in that, I've tried most of them. It really depends on whether or not you're B2B or B2C, and there's a lot that goes into that. So I'm not going to necessarily get into that. But there's definitely a lot of research you can do around CRM. So, I would suggest trying, again, experimentation. So try, a couple different platforms, look at what integrates with the website that the website platform that you're looking for. And then find what you find to be the most usable, because frankly, if you don't use it, there's no point in it. We're always, and I'm guilty of this too, looking at different apps and things to use. But if it's not usable, or you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to use it. And so making sure that it's as easy to use for you as possible is kind of what I recommend.
Sounds like that could be a whole nother workshop.
Yeah.
We have one more question asking if you've heard of the e-commerce platform Shift4Shop, and if so, if it's something that can stand up to Shopify.
I have not heard of it. So I know there's Shopify, there's BigCommerce, was Shopify's main competitor. Shopify has just kind of taken over. They're the number one platform for pretty good reason. And most of the gripes that I've had with Shopify over the years, they've fixed. So, I would say I've not heard of it. If it's something, again, you're comfortable using and you want to use it, I just know that, I would recommend Shopify because it is, again, a platform that there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people developing products for Shopify. So whether that's services or, they have a really robust platform. So again, e-commerce, we covered a little bit of this, but Shopify is great. Service business. So I looked through some of these, and again, I don't normally use Squarespace, but their templates are beautiful. So if you have a service-based business, I've used it a little bit. If you have a service-based business, they have some beautiful looking stuff. So it helps if you just want to get something that's attractive, and you can feed your content into it easily. I know a lot of people love Squarespace. Again, Wix, the same thing. I was checking them out yesterday, and they have a really robust platform at this point. So it's probably great if you're trying to do it yourself. It's a great option. And, again, if you're highly technical, I didn't even include WordPress. I use it all the time, every day, basically, and work with different clients in WordPress, developed hundreds of sites in WordPress, but it's a technical platform, so you need to be comfortable. And there's a lot. If you've used WordPress before, it's great. And again, because it is open source, it's very similar to Shopify, not in the open source part, but there are tens of thousands or hundreds or maybe even millions of people who are building templates and building apps and working on code for WordPress. So it's a very robust platform, and it's been around for a long time. And there are ways to kind of use it. If you use WP Engine, they have a bunch of templates built in. That's a hosting platform specifically for WordPress. So, there's definitely a ton of, it's great for SEO too. So it feeds into Google really well. And I find that, it takes you probably 60 to 90 days to really start ranking for anything. But we have a website that has about 40,000 hits a month on WordPress. That took maybe 9 months to get there. So, all right, just a quick overview of kind of some of the key pages that go into your website. And I'm focusing on your website because, again, this is kind of your hub of all your marketing. And, digital marketing is a super broad topic, and I wanted to leave you with some actionable takeaways. Hopefully some of this stuff is things that you can take back and potentially tweak your own website, or if you're, starting from scratch, maybe you can find a platform that works for you, and then sort of look at some of these key pages. So the first page that everybody always lands on is the home page. And so you want to make sure that you have some of these key components in your homepage. So looking at a header, so that's the main section on your website that stays consistent throughout. So regardless of what page it is, you have your company logo, you have your nav bar, which is all of the listing of your pages, product, services, a search bar. So that's something that's often overlooked with a lot of websites, but the more content you have, the more important a search bar is. You have your primary headline. And so I always say, when you get on someone's website, if I don't know what you're doing in the first second that I'm there, that's a problem. So if I land on your homepage and I can't tell you without scrolling down what it is that your company does, that's something you need to fix. And that's an instant fix. It's very easy. You come up with your main headline that describes what your business does, include your value proposition in there. So what's the problem that you're solving? How are you differentiating yourself? Having that main headline when you land on your homepage is incredibly important. It's something where I'll often see you're scrolling down the page and you're trying to figure out what a company does. That's something you want to avoid. So any supporting imagery, so really photos, that showcase your product or service. So if it's events, if you're doing virtual events, you want to showcase that in some way. If you haven't any, and there's a lot of services that you can get for photos for your e-commerce site. So if you're looking at getting product photos done, there's a lot of different places you can get that done. Primary and secondary calls to action. So your primary call to action should be whatever it is that is at the sort of bottom of the funnel, quote unquote. So making a sale in some way. It might be starting a free trial. It might be purchasing a product. It might be signing up for a consultation. So whatever that main thing is that you want people to do. And then the secondary thing. So that secondary call to action might be, if you want them to browse, or if you want them to download a guide, or if you have some other kind of offer that's sort of secondary that will feed people into your primary offer. So looking at those, having, a primary call to action throughout your page, and then potentially a secondary call to action, depending on, again, what your product or service is. Showcasing your product or service offerings, reiterating your value proposition throughout your headlines, social proof, so things like reviews, testimonials from your customers, press logos. So if you got some great press, putting those logos as seen in, we do that on some of our product pages. Expanded navigation in your footer. So just, any kind of contact information, links to your social, privacy policy, terms and conditions, shipping information if you're shipping product to people, all that stuff. So just showing a couple homepage examples. This is an example of, again, an e-commerce company, very, very simple, very easy to navigate. Right when you get on, they have men's and they have women's, and they make shoes from trees. So it's pretty easy. What they do. And they're showcasing the product really well, and then you can click through and learn more about, the different materials and the different products that they have. But again, you got that headline. I understand exactly what they're doing when you land on their homepage and what they want me to do next. So it's always, what do you do? And then what do you want me to do next? They want me to shop. This is Organic Bath Co. Organic skin and body care you can feel good about using. So again, pretty obvious what we do from the headline. We want people to shop the different products. And you can see, again, the logo, the navigation bar. We have the search box. We have our contact number. So we do get quite a few phone calls. And so, we have our rewards program clearly there. And we do get a lot of chat requests too. So we have our little chat button on the bottom there. So that's another example. Amazon, #1 e-commerce company in the world. You can see that they heavily focus on the search bar. So most people are probably searching in Amazon. Most people are probably not clicking through to all of those links. Their links are, there's so many different places you could click on Amazon. They want you to use the search bar. There's a reason that it's front and center there. And everybody knows Amazon, so they don't have to worry about a headline explaining what they do because everybody knows Amazon. It's like when you're Apple or Amazon or one of these large companies, you can get away with, kind of breaking the rules. If you're a company that people don't know who you are, it's important that you explain what your business does. Casper, again, people are definitely probably familiar with this brand. They heavily advertised D2C, direct-to-consumer brand. And you can see very simple in the header, they have their offer. So they have an offer up at the top of the page and they want you to shop. So you can see very clearly what they sell, mattresses, they have that visual there. And they even have the social proof with the US News best mattress. So you can see another example of kind of social proof there. And I used a service business, Basecamp. This might be something people are familiar with, but it's a project management tool. So you can see they do things a little bit differently, which is very cool, but they have the stars, they're pulling customer testimonials, they're very easy to navigate. They want you to sign up for a free trial. And this paragraph text in there is great. You're basically saying, I'm identifying all of the barriers that might cause you to not want to sign up. And then you're explaining why it is that their life is going to be different. And having this before and after is an amazing marketing tool because it allows people to put themselves into whatever it is that you're doing. And if they can identify, if you can use that language that they can identify with, that's great. And they're much more likely to give Basecamp a try. Jumping in, I know I only have a few minutes left here, but jumping into the about or story page, I want to make sure I leave some time if anybody has any questions at the end. Focus on the customer. So I find that a lot of about pages have a tendency to focus on themselves. And you want to focus on telling the story of your customer, define the problem, define how you are solving the problem, and then reiterate your value propositions and how you're different. And we can showcase Gusto. This is what we use for our payroll platform. Our people platform helps small businesses take care of their hardworking teams. And what small business doesn't want to take care of their hardworking team? So that's a great, you're talking to the customer there. You're not talking about your platform, really. I mean, and then they get into it a little bit in the text, but it really, again, reiterates their value proposition. So you can see there, easy integrated platform, automate and simplify payroll, benefits, and HR, and your employees get the peace of mind they need to do their best work. So you can see, that's focused on the customer, not on them as a company. Same thing, just jumping in using Casper as another example. We believe sleep is the superpower that charges everything people do. That has nothing to do with Casper. That's just reiterating, that they're focused on making sure that you have better sleep. Product or service page. So again, you want a product or service with supporting images. You want your primary value proposition, primary call to action, add to cart, get a quote. So if you're a service business, it might be get a quote. It might be, reach out for consultation. Social proof, so testimonials and reviews. And again, I'm happy to share these slides if anybody would like them to. So you can refer back to them if you kind of want to look at some of the different, the different content that goes into this. And then bullet pointed benefits and features. So, we tend to recommend that you focus on benefits over features, but having those bullet pointed benefits and then showcasing your features, for the people who already bought in. And I'm using us as an example again, just because of the way we kind of set this up. So you have the main product image, the subhead that really describes what it is with our value proposition in there. We put a customer testimonial in there. We use that social proof as seen in Allure. And then we have, the price and the call to action button, just because the way I set it up, that would be visible on most screens. Again, Nest, I kind of use this, turn up your savings. Their value proposition here is focused on saving money for the consumer. So, having that thermostat that saves you money. And Allbirds, you can see, so that just showcases the product really nicely in that grid there and shows you the different colors, select a size and purchase there. Conversion opportunities. So just focusing on all stages of awareness and focusing on relevant offers initially. So whether that's discounts or free or low cost trials, free consultations, financing offers for high cost items. So if you're, buying furniture, buying a mattress or something like that, and they have financing opportunities, that's something you might want to focus on. Subscription offers, and then product sales, obviously add to cart. Thank you. So that's, that's everything. And I know we had a couple websites. I'm not sure if we necessarily have time to get into them, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them too.
We had a question from Sue asking about the Basecamp paragraph text and about whether it was bad to have that much text on a homepage and if people would actually read it.
That is something to test. So again, I always reiterate, I like to say test, don't guess. Or if you want to say it the other way, guess and then test. So you can actually, figure out, I'm sure that they have done a ton of testing. They've changed their homepage many times over the years, and they found that that paragraph probably helps them to get people to click that button. So you might think that long text does not help conversions. In a lot of cases, depending on your customers, you might have long form text, and that might be the best thing for your customers. They might want to dig into it. And that before and after, that copywriting is incredibly skilled as well. I mean, just looking at that copy, it's designed to get people to picture themselves after they sign up, and really looking at the benefits of using the product. So I would say, test those things out.
I think Edward has his hand up if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, I have a question. I had to step out for a second, so excuse me if you already covered this, but I'm wondering, you know how you get these like super targeted ads on Facebook, like based on something that you looked at or talked about yesterday? How is it that we can tap into that?
Yeah, so that's those are known as retargeting ads, and that's a product that Facebook offers. Google offers it, YouTube offers it. Basically any ad platform will offer retargeting, but just looking at retargeting, and that's sort of the baseline that you would start with for ads. So if you're going to start with ads, you would start with retargeting and showcasing. And again, a lot of that stuff that's built into Shopify. You could just add code, a Facebook pixel or LinkedIn or whatever it is, that you could target that across platforms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jay, for coming out and presenting and sharing all of your knowledge with us. This was a really great presentation. I know we all learned a lot. Thank you everyone for coming out. The recording of this will be posted on Innovation Studio's YouTube in case you missed part of it or want to come back and watch it again. And yeah, thank you all for coming out.
Thank you very much.